I saw a few people giving props and credit to Bruce Pearl for confronting a situation straight on that I have not seen a lot of coaches have to confront before, which is an Auburn program that has gotten very good, had a flight derailed from where it is that it was supposed to be going because players were fighting on the plane. I would say that this is one of the places when you learn that your program is indeed getting good. But Bruce Pearl had to, not Bruce Pearl, flight regulations made it so that once you've got being shouted to air traffic control from pilots, the problem that you have on your plane, you cannot just keep going with people fighting on your plane. So, Jessica, I know you are our flight correspondent. You are obsessed with flight, with planes and with travel. I don't have all of the details on this story. Please inform me because I can't wait to get all the details on the story. And I'm hoping that we have, are we calling it cockpit sound? I'm hoping that we have.
We do. We have air traffic control dispatches that Chris Cote is now going to play.
Yes, sir. We have got an altercation on board. We knocked to declare an emergency and land. We got a bunch of basketball players fighting. The flight deck is secure. The threat level is contained for the moment. We just had, police on the ground, and we had 2 players that got into physical altercation. Clothes were ripped, and 1 bloody player. And Center 2681, it's kind of crazy. Were we direct Montgomery?
So this was en route to Houston where this fight broke out. And you might be thinking, why are they have to turn a plane around for a fight? But then I saw a picture of how small this plane was. And there's a decent chance the pilots could feel the jostling around back there. This plane was probably rocking. It was a small plane, and body parts were flying, I guess. Clothes were ripped. And it kind of makes sense. They ended up flying back. They chartered a different flight, went back to Houston. Those players stayed behind. And then Auburn won, and they celebrated by referencing this incredible moment.
Yes, they're running around the court the way that Patrick Mahomes ran around the field yesterday when they won. Is it more fun to run around with your arms spread like this? This is how Mahomes showed more joy on the field at the end of that blocked field goal. And I would ask this question via poll at LeBatardShow. Can you have any faith in your athletic team when you're sending Lutz out there to do the winning? Someone named Lutz.
I will take it one step further. I didn't realize until last week he only has 1 L in his first name. That one slipped by me. Really? That one slipped by me for.
You thought it was
decade.
a double L?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, I
should have known.
I'm asking because how the Lutz you were imagining was a double L. Are there a lot of double L's in last names that start a last name?
No,
I don't.
Will has
she's
1
Will.
L.
The first name has
My
1
bad.
L.
See, you made the same. How many 1 L Wills do you know?
I thought, he's got another L today.
You thought it was like Lloyd, like 2 L's in the last name, like Lutz, or like Greg Williams.
Why would you spell Will with 1 L? Like, what's the parent thinking? You know, what's that short for?
I mean, you spell Greg with 1 G.
Well, but that's the norm.
Did everyone know this?
I thought
this for the first time?
I learned it when you said it. I never knew that.
I thought you were talking about Lutz started his last name with 2 L's, and so now I'm just looking at ways to make jokes about L's because he got an easy field goal blocked. He got the 30. You're not expecting the 35-yarder to get blocked.
It's a chip shot.
You're expecting the 50-yarder to get blocked.
Yeah. You got to get that low trajectory on those 50-yarders, and that's where those big boys can put up. But when you get that one, you got that pop shot up. It's just a great.
I'm sorry.
Great penetration by the line.
Hell yeah. I need to go back for a second. We all didn't know Will Lutz had 1 L in his first name. Correct?
No.
Okay. That makes me feel a lot better because I don't play fantasy football anymore. And that when I saw it, I was like, I bet if I played fantasy, I would know this. So then I Googled it and I was like, maybe his first name is just W-I-L and not William. Or maybe it's William with 1 L, but it's not. It's William with 2 L's. But
then shortened to 1 L.
Shortened to
that
1
doesn't
L.
make any sense.
No.
Thank you. If anyone knows why this is the case, please let me know. It's been bugging me all
week. Let all of us know. And in the interim, let's just hear Kevin Harlan's guttural reaction to this. He went and got it. He went and got it from under his groin.
He always does, though.
Yeah, but this was a stunner. We weren't expecting that. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a miss. Is Kansas City going to get lucky here? I wasn't going to actually expect them to produce their own luck by blocking the field goal. I was as surprised as Harlan was there.
Maybe the Chiefs will give him another L.
I've already felt like I made that joke a couple of times with
Did
the L, and
He
you
did it
guys are
better.
not listening. He did it better?
Yeah.
He did it better?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's, you know,
All right. Well,
when I do it, it's done.
Okay.
It'll be maximum.
All right. Let's see
Where
here.
there's a will, there's an L.
Okay. That's.
Greg Cote, major penalty, 5 minutes, me maximum.
I'll serve that on Greg's behalf. That was
Okay.
my joke.
All right. Wow. I haven't seen that happen around here before, but we're making our own rules.
I haven't seen Greg deliver a line I've delivered in his ear before.
Thank you.
So, really good teamwork.
Yeah,
Okay.
it really is.
Or bad teamwork that's getting you
It's on me.
penalized.
I wasn't going to throw you under the bus. No, that's totally on me.
Okay, way to go, Greg.
Thank you.
Good team player. I wanted to talk with you and Mike Ryan about what happened to Inter Miami on Friday because Saturday. Thank you. It's the highest paid team in the sport. It's the best regular season team there's ever been in the sport. The first time there have been two 20-goal scorers. I saw that Taylor Twellman put out that in the last 18 games that Messi has played, where he has played all 90 minutes for Inter Miami, they are 15-3. All three of the losses are against Atlanta. And they just had their season extinguished in something that has to represent one of the great postseason collapses that we've seen, losing that early when you have that payroll and that kind of star power. We discussed last week. I was saying I will not call this season a failure just because they're building something here and they've built it, and there were plenty of people who cared about what was happening against Atlanta. But there is no arguing that when you've had the regular season they have and when you have that payroll, you're expecting more, and that this ended with the greatest duck fart that you can have, losing at home in Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta, losing to a team that you're better than because soccer happens sometimes. And losing to a 40-year-old goalie on top of that. Losing to a 40-year-old goalie when you control the entire game, you're taking all the shots, you control everything, and next thing you know, you're finished because the Guzman is laughing in your face.
Brad Guzman, not Guzman, legendary international keeper for the U.S. men's national team. To dismiss him as a 40-year-old keeper is
Guzman.
Got unbelievable disrespect for one of the great legends.
He's 40 years old.
Yeah, he's really good, though, and he didn't have to move around that much. You can be a 40-year-old goalie.
Brad Guzman, as Dan likes to call him. Yeah, you can be. Especially at the club level, you can be a very effective goalie at 40 years old. Brad Guzman.
It does sound like a name.
American legend.
In respect to Dan. Brad Guzman sounds
we
like a name.
do one thing historically well and consistent enough, and that's produce goalies, but apparently not good enough for Dan to know your last
The
name.
40-year-old goalie cannot be knocking you out of the playoffs.
I mean, you could say nobody can be knocking you out the playoffs and speak with a good amount of conviction there. We talked about this. I will say, as much as I wanted Inter Miami to advance on this playoff, being a supporter of the club, part of me is like a legacy MLS fan is reveling in the fact that Messi couldn't get past Dax McCarty and Brad Guzman, as Dan likes to call him, because it's a kooky playoff. It takes essentially a month to play the best of three.
Ridiculous.
They got a bit unlucky with Busquets' illness. Busquets tries to give it a go a little bit and has some minutes and some playing time against Atlanta, but where Atlanta and teams had success largely against Inter Miami this season's on that counterattack, and without Busquets there to help mitigate that was difficult. But you should be beating them, and we told you that's ultimately the barometer that U.S. sports fans understand. You have a regular season, you have a postseason. The best team wins the postseason here in the United States. That's how it goes. And if they're not going to win that tournament, then they're not going to convince the casual sports fans that this is a success.
And the problem is winning the Supporters Shield has almost become a curse. In only 8 of 29 Supporters Shield winners have gone on to win the MLS Cup. But they didn't just lose in the first round. They lost to a team with a losing record. They lost to a team whose entire roster made less money than Lionel Messi did by $5 million. So Inter Miami could have gotten to the MLS Cup final and lost, and it still would have been a letdown. That's how much of a favorite they were, a betting favorite and otherwise. You just have to win it all if you're Messi after that regular season. There's no excuse, and I know Atlanta's a tough matchup for them. You know, the Atlanta has won 4 and tied 1 the last 6 meetings between these teams. There's something about Atlanta United, but there's no excuses. They had the roster built to be the best team in MLS history, which has to include a championship.
Mike, can you explain what this video was? Or Greg, maybe you can explain what happened here, because I didn't watch this game, but this video popped up of what appears to be a goal followed by Inter
Look, the
Miami.
goalie's my age, and then he gets pushed into
Inter
the net.
Miami just shoving the
Yes.
keeper into the net,
Right.
and then he
Yes, he
can't
get out.
get out.
And Suárez is like, get up.
Why did they do this to him?
Because Messi was trying to get the ball.
He touched Messi, and so the team's got to defend Messi.
and the goalie was trying to get the ball from Messi.
The goalie wanted to do some housery, which was prevent Messi from getting the ball to avoid the pomp and circumstance and quickly play a goal that no doubt gets reviewed for 30 minutes
That
afterwards.
shove
anyways.
is so funny.
I love Suárez. Just like, come on, get up, get out of the net. What are you doing?
an
Wait a
all-star
minute,
show.
though. The thing that is funniest is indisputably our man Guzman falling into the net there and just being like he's kind of flopping, but he also can't get out of the net.
It isn't every day that Messi scores with a header.
That was the
I
craziest
know.
part about that.
That was incredible.
There was one controversial goal that I didn't really have an issue with it, that Atlanta scored a goal while an Inter Miami player was writhing in pain inside their own box earlier.
Yes.
That's a dumb discussion. You play to the whistle. I understand.
Right.
There's a sportsmanship where you'll see like a player go down and the team like kicks it out of bounds.
Not in the box, though.
They were on the attack there. I had no issue with it. They got MLS. Look, it's hard to win knockout tournaments, especially in soccer, because so many of the variables can change, and that's embarrassing for Inter Miami. Ultimately, I think it took David Beckham a while to win that one too. There's more trophies for them to win now that Messi is in there, and they've certainly won enough for, at least in the eyes of FIFA, for them to get the real prize out of this season, which was earned placement in next year's Club World Cup, where FIFA has already announced Inter Miami will be opening up that tournament. It's a World Cup, but just for club teams. So you get the best of Europe, best of Middle East, best of Asia, best of Latin America, and best here of North America. They're going to be opening that tournament at Hard Rock Stadium. So I guess using that as a qualifier, they're in the tournament. Then I guess it was a good season, but it was all kind of weird how they engineered that. I guess I'm the president of everybody. You're in. Okay.
Well, but you say you guys are making it very all or nothing, okay? You're saying either you win a championship or there isn't something that feels...
I'm not saying that. But that's Joe Sports Fan here in the United States. That's what Billy would say. That's what Stugotz would say, and they don't really care. They're just getting a reaction. But you have to win that. That's it. He joined MLS. He hasn't won MLS.
Yes.
He's won a Supporter Shield and he's won a Leagues Cup. Those are different. He's got to get judged on by most people what he does in that season's tournament.
Right, and the fact is, Inter Miami only has them for 2 full seasons, right? And next year, the odds are they're not going to win the Supporters' Shield again. Messi's going to be a year older. The league will have had an entire cycle of Messi to get used to him and defending him, and I just think this was the year. After the regular season they had, this was his year.
He's shown that he's pretty good though, Greg. Like I think he's going to be good next year. I understand. Like they're going to add players to that roster.
Right.
They're going to still have deeper coffers.
No,
they're
I
just
get
going
it.
to they're
Yeah,
just
there
going to
was a
have more
Neymar.
lottery
Right.
shots.
It's not that you guys are just making it all or nothing or putting the appraisal where sports fans do on if you have the best regular season, you have to win the championship. The thing that's deflating about it is it wasn't even any kind of run. You're losing to a team with a worse record, and it's just sort of soccer happening to you in a small sample size in a weird playoff format that has you playing 3 games in a month.
Well, better now than at the end. if they're not going to win, let's save his legs, not have him go through that many games. It stinks, but you'll have to prioritize. This year, they didn't make the regular season the priority. They had to suffer through a lot of injuries, and they ended up still setting a record for the regular season. They tried to do things where they prioritize the CONCACAF Champions League or Champions Cup, whatever it's called now. That didn't turn out well. They tried to make a run, even though Messi was hurt in Leagues Cup, fell short. They did win one trophy historically. Unless you're the likes of Real Madrid, where there's some instances in which you win a trophy and not everybody's happy with it, winning a trophy in a season when you have the ability to win 3 or more, that's not a bad season.
Mike Ryan has to go to help Chris Whittingham with the podcast that's very popular, soccer podcast, Goalless, that Meadowlark is making along with Chris Whittingham. But before you go, let's send him off as punctuation video. Do you have the ability to show us Guzman in the net very slowly, slow motion, trying to get out of the net after he gets pushed in here? He's furious. He's bald. He looks like Pinhead from the horror movies.
Cartoon sound effects would be so good behind this.
Okay, but let's do this in slow motion first because this is funny and it would happen to any of us. It's how I try to get out of the ball pit when I have fallen into the ball pit at my local Chuck E. Cheese's.
When? Yesterday?
Last month.
Week?
Paint
Yes,
that
last
picture.
month. Yes, it's in the ball pit. Very slow motion. So, you know what? He did better. He did better than most under the circumstances, as if he has some experience propelling himself out of the awkwardness of a net.
I love how protected Messi is. Number 8 on Inter Miami shoves him into the net, and no one's
correct.
upset about it because, hey, you bumped
well,
Messi.
Guzman was certainly upset
He
about
looks
it.
like a marionette trying to get out of the net. Like people are,
This is one of the best soccer videos I've ever seen. Like,
is
this,
great.
If they did this more, I'd watch MLS.
Really, you'd watch more
Suárez
soccer
just
than
pointing
one.
in his face. Oh, great.
I want to run through a little bit more football with you guys. Are you guys as surprised as I am whenever Young Wei Koo misses any field goals? Never mind all of the field goals. I don't know if you guys were surprised at all by Moody missing 3 field goals yesterday, and then Deebo Samuel wanting to kill everybody on his team, including the long snapper.
That's the part I was surprised by. Like, it was literally Deebo on the sideline. Like, did he smack the snapper?
He smacked both of them like in
Choked
one
him.
shot.
Didn't he put his hands on the throat of the long snapper? And then apologized to Moody for being Moody about it.
The vibes were so weird in that game because it was like, oh, McCaffrey's back. We're humming a little bit. Like Kittle, that touchdown was incredible.
The throw was
The scramble,
insane.
the throw, the
The
catch
whole-
was amazing.
Purdy made 2 plays at the end of that game that could have only been topped by the 2 that Mayfield made. And then they lose because Tampa loses because Moody finally does make one of the 4 kicks.
Brock Purdy has a little Duncan Robinson in him that anytime he does anything athletic, I'm just shocked at it every time. Because Purdy is legitimately good at, like, seeing pressure, getting out of the pocket. But every time I'm always like, he's sneaky athletic.
No, Chris, this is what's happening. Foxworth spoke to this in a second ago. Both Purdy and Baker Mayfield are great athletes compared to anyone in the world you know. They're just not great athletes when being chased by 350-pound people who are more athletic than anyone you also know.
Except when Nick Bosa is trying to bring you down, and Baker all of a sudden just has the arm of steel and just like doesn't let him go, then throws a rope to Rashad White.
It's like when you're eating food on the couch and your dog's trying to get it, and you gotta just stick the arm out. You just gotta stick the arm out, and it worked. It was ridiculous.
Yep.
To that Moody point, though, you come back from injury, right? You have a high ankle sprain. You're out for 5 weeks. You're starting to get back into the flow of things. Hey, you miss a couple of kicks. That's part of the deal, right? I got my ankle rolled up on. It's screwed up. And then a teammate makes you feel worse about it and then smacks you with it. It's like, come on, guys. What are we doing here?
I cannot talk enough to the audience in general about how little respect real football players have for the guys deciding games who do not play real football. I cannot articulate to you, cannot explain to you. They don't think they're actual football players, and they all secretly feel like Deebo Samuel. They just don't want to all strangle the long snapper for costing them games. When Deebo Samuel was in the hospital recently, do you know what they're doing to their bodies to win those games? And then the kicker comes out and starts bleeping with their money, with everything. They do not respect those guys. They're not playing the same sport that Deebo Samuel is playing, and Deebo Samuel resents that they're deciding the games for him.
I'm trying to think of other professions where this exists, like someone's job that can be very important at times, but you're just disrespected a lot. Like in our world, like the
producer.
IT guy. Like, we don't care about GQ until something breaks, and we're like, God damn it, GQ!
No.
You stink!
He's an engineer, though. He's not an IT guy.
Whatever, I'm just...
Yeah.
I guess that proves your point.
What are you doing? Robert is the IT guy, and you're just taking...
Robert's also an
Byram
engineer,
is
Dan.
But
the
Robert,
IT guy.
kind of like
Byram's
kickers,
the IT
Robert's
guy.
one of these people, you might not talk to him for a few days, but if something goes wrong, we're like, God damn it, Robert!
Valid.
Thank you, Dad.
That is valid. And by the way, nobody had a worse game than Cote, who's a Lobo. And so the Lobos could have used him.
You're like me.
on
You're
any of
surprised
those
anytime
three
he
kicks.
misses a
Yes.
kick of any
Yes.
sort, correct?
And here's the problem for kickers. It used to be, if you miss a 50-yard field goal, all right, it's a long kick. You know, we don't blame you. Now, if you're taking a 58-yard kick, I expect you to make that. I think it's gotten, by 10 yards at least, the kicker is now expected to make kicks that he wasn't expected to make before.
Yeah,
There's
like
no room for error.
last night, Bates for the Lion, it was a 58-yarder to win it, and I'm just like, I mean, he's obviously got enough leg.
You have to make that
And he did.
because it's
just,
never short.
It's crazy. Like, these
Right.
kicks, someone's going to make a 70-yard kick.
Oh,
The way
yeah.
they're making these 58-yarders, it's crazy.
Because they all make them by distance, and they're never short. It's always left or right.
What do you guys do with the way that the Lions won that football game? And to be in the rarefied air, this is not, I don't have any experience with this. The Lions have been bad the entire time I've been alive. The Lions are not a team, an organization that can ever be trusted to do the correct things because, never mind that they're better than everyone else, because they simply can't be trusted to do the right things. Chris Cote is watching that game last night, watching Jared Goff throw 5 interceptions and saying there is no circumstance under which Detroit's not winning this football game. That is a level of faith that I have never assigned, not even for a quarter, not on a Thanksgiving. I have never assigned that kind of confidence to a Detroit Lions franchise in my lifetime, where you would believe that, yeah, Houston's not going to win here, even though Jared Goff is turning the ball over 5 times.
They're down 23-7, and I thought they were going to cover. I had the Texans plus 3.5. I was like, my wife is like, oh, you're up to, I'm like, no, this is the Lions. They're going to come back. Like, that team is so just like that offense, dude, well-oiled machine.
There is no team in the sport that can beat you more ways, right? Because they had Goff had 23 yards the other day, and they were winning by 40 because their special teams had 3 different touchdowns. Their offensive line is as strong as any in the sport. And then in the second half of that game, as they're putting up the fourth quarter points, you're watching, and Houston's got nothing since halftime. They can't get points after halftime because of how restrictive everything gets when Nico Collins is hurt there.
That and Aiden Hutchinson, who was their best pass rusher, still is like top 10 or something in pressures for a defensive lineman. He hasn't played in like 5 weeks.
He's probably a little bit longer than that. Was there anything else in college football that jumped out at you guys from this weekend, from the enjoyment of the weekend? Because Miami losing was one of the big stories, but it felt to me that Georgia losing that way, and that Georgia's receivers are so bad compared to last year. They've left more yards on the field, I think, than any receivers that we've seen. It's a bit startling for me to see Lane Kiffin do that way, though, to Georgia. It's not that I'm going to be surprised that Georgia loses an SEC game, but to have it be like that, where they're not able to do anything, and I generally assume that Georgia's got better players than the other guys.
Carson Beck is not good. Oh, man, he misses Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey so much. It is insane just how much his play has changed from last year to this season. Like, he is a turnover machine now. It's literally like it's completely made me reevaluate him as a quarterback, because if he doesn't have, like, the world's best receivers with him, he's mid.
I think it's an O-line issue too, though. Like, the O-line's not been playing as well, and under pressure, he just isn't. He's not playing well. It's not a good situation.
It's TVD-esque the way that he went from, is he the number 1 pick in the draft, to, is he a day 3 pick? Is he a guy who's going to be undrafted? Like, that's how far it's fallen.
Gronk calls Bowers the best tight end ever, right? Like, says that
He's the best tight end in football right now. Like,
Trey McBride
receiving
would
wise.
like a word.
That guy That guy yesterday, you see how he threw Sauce Gardner off him and then just hurdled another defender? The stuff with the Jets is super interesting. I didn't understand yesterday why the Jets were a 2-point favorite at Arizona. I thought Kyler Murray wasn't playing. I thought he was like a late scratch when I saw that the Jets were favored by 2. I'm like, why would the Jets be favored by 2 there?
That was the weirdest betting line of the week. And I picked Arizona without giving it much thought. And not because I'm that smart, because the betting line looked weird. And I have to think it's because New York is always an over-bet team because there's so many bettors in New York. I mean, the Jets and the Giants are always going to be bet.
That's not why it's happening. The Jets. That was one of the strangest lines of the season, betting lines of the season. And it's not because New York is over-bet. I'll give you a stat. The 2 teams in the league that have lost the most since 2017, 85 times. The Jets and the Giants. New York football stinks.
Right.
And has stunk for damn near a decade. Since 2017, no one loses more than the Jets and the Giants. I didn't understand what I actually asked Mina and Mike before the game, who's out here that I'm not seeing in any of the reports that makes the Jets a 2-point favorite on the road? Like, why would anybody? And the response was that Arizona's defense is bad. But when you look at what Aaron Rodgers is doing statistically through 10 games, it's the same as what Zach Wilson was doing statistically through 10 games. Like, that experiment's over. It's not just a colossal failure. It's an enduring one that's going to end Aaron Rodgers' career. Right. I can't imagine that. Not only can I not imagine that he's going to want to play another year after this, I imagine he wants to quit right now. I imagine he'd like to not have to suffer through the last few games of what this feels like physically. For what? For who? Like Ricky Waters said when he was running across the middle and wasn't putting out his arms to catch something. Like, what? If Aaron Rodgers wanted to quit right now, would you be surprised?
If he retired in the middle of a season?
No, wanted to. Not if he's going to. Wanted to. If he just wanted to not go back to work this morning.
He's going to take a cabinet position. That's what's going to happen.
Ooh, I like that.
So true.
Yeah.
No, you don't
like
like
that?
that.
You should not like that.
They will be out by
Secretary of
January,
Health.
though. So, I mean,
They won
he
one
has
game,
opportunity.
and he went on McAfee and said like some wild conspiracy theory like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh man, if they keep winning, this is gonna be really ugly. But thank God they've kept losing. But Lucy's right. That's what we're heading towards.
But when I say that the Jets are over bet, what I mean is there's a million Jets fans who keep forgetting that Aaron Rodgers is almost 41 years old, and they're wish betting, they're hope betting every week that this is the week that he finally looks like the player they thought they were getting. And it ain't going to happen. But that's why Arizona should have been favored by 2 or 3 points. There's no question about it.
That's not why, Greg. What I'm telling you is I don't know how to tell you that that's not why.
Right.
It's not because New York all of a sudden was the only one interested in that game and moved the line 5 points because
Explain it
New
then.
York. Well, I was asking questions before the game yesterday because I assumed that somebody was out. I was then told that the Arizona defense is bad, and there was some expectation that the Jets would match up in some way, in a way that suggested the bettors saw something. I don't know if you guys noticed this the other day. Before the University of Miami Georgia Tech game, that line started going down.
Yes.
It went from a 12 early in the week, and it just all week went down and down until it ended up at whatever it was, 8.5 points. The Jets line kept going in favor of the Jets. It was confusing to me that the Jets were favored at all in that football game, or that the Jets would be favored against much of anybody on the road for any reason. Like, they're one of the worst teams in the league and one of the worst offenses in the league. So when they go to Arizona and they are the line keeps climbing, I'm assuming that I don't know something, but it's not because New York. That's never the reason. Because New York bets a lot is not the reason on an NFL game.
I think you're wrong, and I've seen it with Jets betting lines earlier this season. This is not the first time that the Jets betting line has looked weird relative to the rest of the league on a weekend.
I think people bet with hope that Aaron Rodgers and the
That's
Jets
what
are
I
going to
mean.
turn it around, right?
They're
Like,
wish betting.
Exactly.
They're hope betting.
Exactly.
I know, but that's not New York doing that, is what I'm saying.
It's Jets fans.
It's not Jets fans. It might be belief in Aaron Rodgers. It's not Jets fans. There are too many bets being made for Jets fans to be making any kind of dent in that number.
I just think also people aren't buying the Cardinals yet. Like, I think it's just a combination of everything. I think there is some truth to what my dad's saying. The Jets are a popular team. They're probably bet more than other teams, but it's not going to move. Like, it's not just in New York, to Dan's point.
But Kyler Murray has been pretty good this year, and Marvin Harrison Jr. has made his career. He has turned him around as the quarterback that they hoped he would be.
McBride too. Like, it's not a small thing that they have another one of these Frankenstein tight ends running around out there, and he only had 4 catches for 71 yards yesterday. But when you watch their games, McBride is expected to be targeted close to 10 times.
Heavily. He still hasn't scored a touchdown yet, though. I think he's got the most receiving yards and targets for a tight end without having a touchdown. Yeah, McBride. He hasn't. He was missed, by the way. There was a bootleg play action pass that Kyler Murray, I think 2 games ago, completely missed him. He was standing in the end zone like, "Do you see me? Do you see me?" And then Kyler Murray overthrew and threw it 6 feet, 6 yards past the end of the line. But when you look at that game, it was, are people wish betting the Jets saying that, oh, they're going to turn it around? Because when you look at that line, was Vegas trying to like get people to entice and bet on the Jets? We have a home dog, especially on a team going out west and a team who's not that good. Like, that's
not how betting works. All Vegas does is try to get an equal amount of betting on both sides of a bet. That's all the line is. I will say to you that while Cody's making this argument on the Jets, I have not seen a stranger line this season than that one, where I simply assume. Do you know what it is for me to look at a line and see it be 5 or 6 points off and make me think, is Kyler Murray out?
Sure, that's the first thing you look.
Because Dallas yesterday was a 7-point underdog with their backup quarterback, just simply because they were playing at home, and we expect all of these games to be close because almost all of them are. There aren't a lot of differences between these teams. The thing that was special about yesterday in football wasn't that it was good football, it was just a ton of close football. And a ton of close football at the end because there's not a lot of differences between whatever it is you think the differences are between teams. But to have a 5-point line where I'm looking at something, I'm like, I don't understand why the Jets are giving points on the road when they stink. And I feel while Arizona might not be good, they got my attention the very beginning of the season when they went to Buffalo and did that offensively. And I'm like, well, maybe they're better than I think they are, because that offense looked against Buffalo from the very beginning of the season the way it's looked in like most of the way the rest of this game since, where you can't do much with Connor. Connor's going to be able to run the ball on you because, at least in part, they have Harrison and McBride and Kyler Murray. He's impossible to corral. He's gonna be somebody that extends these plays in ways that are athletically ridiculous.
I would also mention, and I just looked it up to confirm what I thought, Arizona does not have a terrible defense. Their defense has given up 22 points a game, which is about 14th mid-pack. Not terrible. And so when you have Kyler Murray working the way he's working right now, they can win games.
The people I was asking use different stats than the one you're using to measure defense. Okay. That stat that you're using, and you don't use any of the advanced metrics on what a defense actually is. You don't use the numbers that would tell you that Green Bay, for example, some of the stuff Mike Ryan is arguing, that their pass rush and their timely turnovers a bit of a mirage on how good they are defensively, because generally speaking, turnovers aren't something that you can cause in a timely fashion. They're pretty fluky.
Right.
The people who I was asking yesterday about why is this number the way it is, the answers I was getting was about that defense being metrically challenged in the way that the empirical measurements are done, not just points per game. And 22 is not great, by the way. Like it's pretty middling.
It's mid-pack. It's not bad.
If you look across all of the games this past weekend, there was still a lot of like weird lines. Like the Cowboys game, you said -7. They end up losing by 4 scores. The Vikings were 7-point favorites against Mac Jones, and they only they won by 5. What was the other game? Denver game, but the Bears and the Patriots. Bears were 6-point favorites against a Patriots team that isn't that good until you realize, hey, the Bears have been playing really bad teams for the first stretch of their season. Now they're on the back half of playing some really good defenses, and they can't do anything.
This Dolphins line tonight is odd. Why are the Dolphins only +1.5? Like, they've looked really bad the last few weeks. The Rams are healthy. It just seems like an easy one for the Rams.
I mean, their offense is back since, they've averaged 28 points a game since Tua has been back. That's pretty good.
Loss last week or before.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost
Bills,
They've lost 2 games in a row on last-second field goals. You know, they're due a break, the Dolphins, and I know that's an intangible nobody likes to hear.
Due a break is not the way anyone's betting. They're not a 1.5 point dog because they're due a break.
I understand. That's why I instantly said I know nobody wants to hear those intangibles because I know that. Obviously.
Due a break, I don't even know what that means. In fact, I would say more than that. Due a break in football is they're due someone physically breaks. If Tua got hit the way Kyler Murray did on that play yesterday, the sport shuts down, right?
You bring back the guy that accused the Dolphins of murder. You have that guy on again.
If the Dolphins are due a break, or the Chiefs,
Nowitzki, is that his name?
The Chiefs are whatever the opposite is.
Yeah,
that's what the Chiefs
yes,
are.
Correct. It's a law of averages thing, right? It's a law of averages thing. You know, the trend is your friend, but the trend must end. You know, if you have a team that's lost 8 games in a row,
I'm in. Whatever he said, I'm in. It
He's
doesn't
got
matter.
a poem. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Chris Cote also has, I hope, another poem that he can put together on the fly based on yesterday's on the music played earlier in the show.
This one is about the University of Miami. Mario Cristobal dropped the ball. Couldn't see with his crystal ball. Cam Ward ends with D. And so too might Miami. That's it.
Is that a rattlesnake? What is happening back there? Is that what
Some
is it?
slam poetry.
It's a very spicy image on the music video. It's called Intimacy, and it's like a fire meeting up with an ice, and they're kind of together.
Yeah,
is
people
all-
bang to this music.
banging it.
Very spicy.
There is even less reason as to why we've been waiting for 6 years for Stugotz to do this at the Grid of Death. I mean, Chris Cote just farted out a banger. Why hasn't Stugotz gotten around to this? It's been 8 years.
Is that a rattlesnake? It sounds a bit like a rattle. Can you start me over again on
Those
the
are
music?
maracas.
I know, but if I told you simply, you're walking through the desert. It's dark at night. You can't totally see everything that's happening.
I'm going the other way.
Yeah. I would be a little nervous, but also, why does it feel like I'm about to?
Walking through the desert, but also super horny and,
Is it
and
just me, or
scared.
is it really sexy out here?
It is.
I'm thirsty. I'm dying,
Yes,
crawling through
yes.
this desert.
Yes.
Johnny Depp's burying something in the ground.
I'm so out of bodily fluids, but I guess I can muster up just a little.
I'm thirsty. I'm so thirsty. I'm dying. Is that a snake or am I aroused?
Oh, it's a snake, all right.
Baby.
What are your thoughts on the show today?
You know what? We just got off the air. My phone's blowing up with people reminding me that LeBatard didn't even have the courtesy to promote my podcast. On the latest episode of the Greg Cote Show, man, it's a whirlwind. We have Uncle Dick on. He's shirtless for some reason. He's talking about me as a boy, bringing up 1440, howler monkeys, flying bags of marijuana, a bombing range. You got to listen.
Greg,
The guy with the stapler. Yeah.
Greg, any Lobos update?
You know what? The Lobos are kicking ass. We had a 57-point game by Jamar Chase, and we rode that like a wave, man. I was on a surfboard. We're riding to another victory. The Lobos have won their 3rd game in a row. They're 5-5. The hottest team. My ass is on fire. The Lobos are so hot.
Who could have played better on the show today?
You know, just about everybody but me. I'm just kidding. It's just a laugh. I thought Lucy's Rodine, or on the Rodin, whatever she called.
Well said.
That was like really fantastic. The highlight of the show was when Dominique Foxworth complimented my shirt straight out of the Press Box collection, because this is a shirt you can buy at the Greg Cote Show merch store. I'm just kidding, but maybe we'll start selling dress shirts. You never know.
Greg.
What do you think about the ongoing strike
Which strike is that?
with Jeremy Taché striking against the show?
You know what? I'm in favor of it, man. I'm in favor of legal civil protests. You know, if Jeremy wants to protest, and I enjoyed the old-timey megaphone or megahorn. What is that called that he had?
You got it.
He was speaking into something that amplified his voice, whatever that's called, and I approve of that. I support Jeremy Taché in his strike against the man. Yes.
Can we get an update from Scranton, please?
You know, sitting around the kitchen table, my dad says to me, Joey, someday you're going to be on the Dan LeBatard show giving an update from Scranton.
Greg.
Yes.
Just one more from me, Greg. You're
Yeah.
back on the show tomorrow. Can we expect it back in my day?
You know what? I'm going to keep that a secret. I know the betting odds are not good for a back in my day, but maybe I'll surprise you. That kind of thing.